Okay, so here's video help for this question. This tells you the formula for finding the surface area of a cylinder. We'd worked on that a little bit yesterday. Basically, for a cylinder, you're going to cut this thing open. So you're going to cut it down the middle, open it up, and it's going to make a rectangle with circles like that. That's what it's going to look like. So that's one cylinder. Now we have these two cylinders together. It's like and it's yellow, so it's like a yellow cake joke. I don't know if you know anything about uranium ore and yellow cake, but anyway, if you don't, that's okay. Two round cakes have diameters 14 centimeters, 26 centimeters, 5 centimeters tall each. They're arranged as shown. The cakes are covered in frosting. What's the area of the frosting? So the cakes are covered in frosting. And look, there is no icing between the cakes, okay? And no icing on the bottom or underneath. There's a little note there. So no icing underneath. Okay, you don't usually put icing underneath, and there's no icing in between. Usually there is icing in between, but in this case, there is not. It's just lathered in icing. Okay, so what's the area of the frosting? All right, how are we going to do this question? Well, what I'm going to notice first is if I look down from the top, let's just do top bottom of this thing. So if I write down top bottom, what is the top and the bottom going to look like? Well, if I look straight down, the bottom will look like this and the top like that. But if I color them blue, the bottom we don't need, but the top would look the same as the bottom, if that makes sense. So and this part underneath we don't need. So rather than calculate this part and then calculate this part and subtract it, what I'm going to do is just calculate the bottom, just the bottom. And I'm just going to include it once. It will look the exact same as the bottom, even though we don't need the bottom. I'm just going to calculate the bottom and it will look the same as the top, if that makes sense. Okay, it just make less calculation. Okay, so for my top bottom, I don't need bottom, I just need a top. But ironically, to calculate the top, I'm just going to use the bottom to calculate it. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do that. Area equals pi r squared. That is going to be, just going to do area of a circle, 3.14 times, what is the radius of this? 26 divided by 2 is going to be 13. So 13 squared. 13 squared is 169. 169. Okay. So I multiply this out and I'm going to get a number. Whatever number that is, you can multiply that out. Okay. And now I have the top. I have the blue. Now all I need is I need to cut this open. And I need to cut this open to make rectangles. So there's the top rectangle by 5. And let's say this is the bottom rectangle. And it has 5. So what is the, what's this dimension here? Is this circumference? This dimension here is also circumference of the bottom circle. So we need to find both of these circumferences. So circumference of the top and the circumference of the bottom cake. Okay, so circumference of the top cake is going to be pi d. In other words, pi, what is diameter? 14. Pi times 14, I'm going to get a number. Then I multiply. In order to get the area, I use this, multiply by 5. So whatever number here, multiply by 5. Oops, can't see what I'm doing. Multiply by 5, that gets you that area. Let's color it pink. That is the distance all the way around this cake. Okay? That number is going to get you the pink. Now to get this, let's call this orange. Okay, you need to find the circumference, or this distance all the way around, which is pi d. So 3.14 times what's d? 26. You're going to get a number, multiply that number by 5, and that, equals, that is going to be your orange area. Okay, so once you get this surface area, then you just add it. You add this area of one of the circles. You add this together to these, and you should get the value of that cake. Hopefully that helps.